All right, so this is group two. We have Selma, Ricardo, Jessica, and Amy. So I'm going to start with Selma's work. So Selma, I see that you have a few versions over here, and I'm just going to go ahead and see which ones work best for my liking. And I noticed that we had some for this week, which looks like this was your original submission, which I think looks great. The only thing I had a issue with was how this one was reading here. So I kind of liked your previous version where you actually had the title over here with the ingredients and then pretty much the directions going from this particular way of working in our way how we read. So I kind of favored this version over this one right here. I would just say, just be careful with certain areas here where you have upside down text. So you want to make sure you flip that right side up, all right? So if things read like, 2 tablespoons all-purpose flour, this, and that, you want to make sure that this area is not upside down. Same for this line right here, all right? You might want to move this up a little bit more towards the top so you can give a little bit more breathing room for your pull quote. The same goes for your instructions paragraphs here, right? But I think this looks nice. I would definitely use this version over this version right here. I'm noticing here that you do have some curves to your paragraph. I would bring that in for this particular one, for this particular version. So see if you can, maybe do that for the rest of your title as well, like your pull quote. Maybe it goes the opposite direction, where you create more of a curve that fits more in this direction right here, where you're mimicking the curve of the egg roll with your ingredients. So see if that's something that you can do. All right, so that's for your connotative. Let's go into your denotative. I'm seeing here for your denotative that this is your latest submission, which does look nice. I definitely like how you've cleaned up the negative space and you're using scale nicely. I would just be careful to see how much of your paragraphs are touching other elements of your layout. So right here, I'm not sure why there is this white space. Maybe just bring this up a little bit more so it's not too close to those letter forms for the word roll. All right. I like how things are aligning very cleanly here, and you have this system going on for naming your paragraphs, so directions, ingredients, very nice and clean. All right. I would also say, maybe make things just a slightly tad bit larger. There is quite a bit of white space here that you can play around with. And I'm trying to see where your pull quote is here, and I don't think I'm seeing it. So maybe that's something that you can bring in. Maybe like a pull quote here or in this direction or somewhere here. Maybe something to just add a little bit more areas here to fill in that white space. But I do think that I favor this layout right here over this one right here. So I think this definitely has a nicer quality to it, a little bit more polished and refined. Okay, let's move next to Ricardo's work. So Ricardo's doing a pina colada. Ricardo, I think this looks great. I like how you've divided up your title, so pina colada. So that's the only thing about this is it's a little bit hard to read. So I like how this is a very strong direction. It kind of pulls your eye right here where you say, pina. I would like to read colada, maybe going down here, or maybe pina colada, maybe colada starts over here or something. But just remember, you want to direct your viewer in a very intentional way. So right here, you're going down this way. So it looks like you're going straight towards the instructions, and then you kind of go up. So just make sure you're being a little bit more intentional with how you want your reader to see this. So maybe instead of your instructions here, you might want to put your ingredients, directing your viewer that way, and then going this way, go up. Maybe your instructions are here instead. So something to think about. All right, but I think this looks nice. I like how you divided up the white space in here. and just make sure there's a little bit more alignment. So, things are moving kind of like in this zigzag motion, which is nice, but I just want to make sure like, we have some kind of intentional direction moving in, all right? And then let's go into your connotative. So remember, we need to make sure anything that we do graphically or image-wise needs to be done with type. So we're not using any graphic aids whatsoever. So no lines and no rectangles or anything. So that all needs to be done with type, all right? So see if there's another way that we can actually work with this treatment here. So I like where you've gone with piña, but colada is a little bit difficult to read. Maybe don't rotate the type upside down, but let's see if we can read it as C-O-L-A-D-A, so colada, all right? Remember, we still want to be able to read this. So piña colada, and then we kind of go here in first, so put the ice. So tell us what this is. I mean, is this like the instructions, and then here we have the what looks like the ingredients list. So be a little bit more intentional with this movement. If you want to create those movements with your image, I would say do that with the type, right? It's not to say that you can't put type on a diagonal. You can, but you just want to make sure that you're not using any graphic aids whatsoever. So you want to make sure that the type is the one doing that, all right? It's a little bit hard to read right here when you go to the text getting this small. So make sure when you have white type on a black background, you have it some sort of a size variation, kind of like what you have over here. And you don't want to be too light with white type on a black background because it does have that vibrating effect where it gets you to not read it properly. Okay, it's getting too close to the edges, so watch out for that. All right, same thing over here. Try to bring in some margins for your overall layout so you have some breathing space, kind of like what you did with this layout here, which breathes very nicely. Okay, let's move on to Jessica's. Jessica, this looks nice. This looks very clean. I like where this is going in terms of a recipe card. I definitely like the little treatments here that you have for the sauce. It's okay to repeat things like you have here. So just make sure you don't go too small with certain areas like this because it is getting a little bit too difficult to read. I think this size is very nice and comfortable, but when we get too small with decorative type like this script, it does become harder to read. All right, and just watch out for those rivers here. You kind of start to see that happening. So I would just either center it or just align it to the left. All right, this one seems a little bit more cleaner in terms of the rags as well as the rivers that you have. All right, so just be a little bit more intentional with the space. All right, I think this looks nice in terms of how you're pulling this font treatment all over. I'm going to try to see if I can locate a few things that are a little bit more problematic. For me, it's a little bit more about the alignment. So yes, we have circles here around certain areas of the text, which looks like how you create the sauce, how you create the pasta, and how you put this together. So maybe create some kind of a numbering system, maybe just putting a step 1 or 1, 2, 3, just to kind of control how the viewer is supposed to read this. And then I see how you're starting to have some kind of strong alignment here. Maybe align the ingredients to that strong left area right here. Same goes here. So try to see if there's something, maybe those nicely aligned properly. So try to keep consistent throughout. And then there's a widow right here, which kind of is obstructing the read, so it's nice to have like a paragraph like this. You want to end your sentence with at least 3 or 4 words, all right? So you can either bring these down to the next line or edit this, all right? But overall, I think this looks nice. Honestly, I don't know if this is the right treatment here or placement for your pull quote. I'd like to see maybe some kind of treatment, maybe putting this around, kind of like where you have these circles right here, which is a nice finish, kind of like what you did with the prep time here. All right, so maybe bring some of that in. You know, one thing to keep in mind is this treatment right here for ingredients is much different than, like the word ingredients. You don't really see it anywhere else, just that font treatment and size, which is okay. Just make sure that you treat your directions here. So maybe I would say put directions somewhere here, or something like that has a labeling system, because here it's very strong. You have ingredients here, maybe have direction here somewhere, all right, or instructions, if you will, right? But overall, I think this is a very nice and playful layout, okay? Just careful with how close you're going to, maybe just bring this down a smidge, all right? Let's go to your denotative. So spaghetti, okay? So one thing I would also advise against is drop shadows. It doesn't bother me as much here because it's very light, but it's definitely jarring here. So I would just keep to the text as it is, all right, and not use a drop shadow, all right? If you want to do things like, things on curves, I would just be consistent and keep it all the same size. So prep time, and follow that curve nicely throughout those letters. Personally, I do like that you're using this type of font treatment, but see if there is a way to just simplify the amount of moves you're doing. So create that movement like you have with ingredients here. Just simplify instead of going from larger to smaller. Right? Just simplify the curve a little bit more, and see where you want to add those areas. Okay, because right now spaghetti ingredients, I'm not really sure spaghetti, and I'm not really sure where to read this first. So spaghetti. Okay. So I might need to control the readability aspect of this a little bit more. So this is, I guess, where we start off with the ingredients, all right? And then sauce, how you cook the sauce and how you cook the pasta. And so have them be a little bit more intentional with how you're creating your paragraph. So is it step 1, step 2? So simplify this block a little bit more for your reader. And then careful with your widows right here. So we don't want to end a sentence with just one word, at least 3 to 4 words, all right? And then with prep time, we say 5 minutes, cook time 40 minutes, total 45 minutes. I like how this is going, I don't mind where you're putting those spaces in between, but let's just kind of tighten this up a little bit, all right? And see where this can go. But I think those two work well as a pair very nicely, especially this one right here. And then just careful with how much space you have here. Just kind of bring this up a little bit more up, or bring this down, right? Let's go to Aimee Gonzalez. So Aimee, you had a version that was, with your connotative, a serif. I like this one better, to be honest. And I'll tell you why. I think this particular structure that you have for your recipe is very strong, and it lends itself well to a very geometric font like you have here, what looks like a Futura, I believe. So I would keep to this particular type of font usage, and then I would complement that with your denotative being a serif font, right? So serif and, I'm sorry, sans serif and serif, right? So let's bring this version back in, and I think it's nice that you actually had your pull quote here, so it kind of creates this very nice structured balanced piece, if you will. I would just be careful with how close this is getting to the edge, all right? Maybe just bring it up a little bit more so it kind of looks like it's sitting on a tray, but just make sure the space isn't too tight, right? But I definitely like the gradation of the colors here, and just the overall size treatment. So, gradually going from lighter to darker. I think the color palette is very nice here, and it's nicely complemented with the beige version right here, right? And just has this like very classic feel for the denotative, which looks very nice. Just be careful with how close you're getting to the edge right here. I like the space here. It's very nice and calming to the eye. But right here, we start to get a little too close to the word tiramisu. And I would say, you know, treat your pull quote a little bit differently. Maybe do an italic version of the serif font. Could be a different serif font. All right. And yeah, let's just see if we can, you know, make a little bit more space here. You might want to bring things to the second line or just kind of compress this a little bit more, but things are getting a little bit too close to the edge here. All right, and maybe just bring this pull quote closer to this area right here, because it's not that close. All right, but I think overall the way you treat size and scale and contrast is very nice for these two. So I would definitely try to go back to this one that you have here and use this version, because I think these two work well, where you have a sans serif and a serif version. All right, hope this helps, and hopefully this will give you a little bit more direction for the next round. All right.